Hi, welcome to another episode of Go Play Esports Podcast. I am your host, Christopher Turner. My followers already know what time it is. If you've been following, we have Daniel Clerke on the show. We're right now live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So go follow us. It's Go Play ES, and that's the Louisiana traditional way, GEAUX. We're going to get into some control and let you know what control is. Thank you for sponsoring us for a third season. And you can use discount code GoPlayES and get you some control drink, man. So go to drinkcontrol.com. Let's go to a real quick commercial break.
90% of people love statistics. We don't have any data to support that, so you'll just have to take our word for it. Control contains prebiotic fiber, the stuff that promotes healthy gut bacteria. Unlike unhealthy gut bacteria, it's healthy. It also contains digestive enzymes. They promote healthy digestion. You're probably starting to recognize a trend here. You know what else are healthy? Branched-chain amino acids. They support muscle growth and amp up your exercise performance. And MCTs help to control your appetite. 5 grams of fiber, 23 grams of protein, 22 vitamins and minerals, plus it's made with real pieces of cereal. Control. Statistically awesome.
All right, drinkcontrol.com. Don't forget to use discount code GoPlayES. Daniel Clerke is somebody that I reached out to when I first got into the industry. I'll let him tell that story because I do not like talking about myself. But he has set a standard at Maryville and around the collegiate scene. He's also been in the pro scene, been a manager, been an owner. His resume is long for his age because I think I have 10 years on you. But we'll get into it. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
What's going on, how are you doing? Man? Thank you for having me.
Nah, man, thank you for being here. And so let's get right to it, man. Like I wanted to kind of start from the early beginnings, as far as how we got here and how you got before you got to St. Louis. So tell the people that don't know who you are, which is probably strange at the moment. Who is Daniel Clerke?
Hey, so my name is Daniel Clerke. I'm the Director of Esports at Maryville University. I've been in esports for 9 years now. It's crazy. Like I'm 29, so I'm still considered a young guy, but it's crazy to kind of be able to say that I've almost been doing this for a decade. But here we are. In the early days, it was pre-money, so this was before all the investment capital came into the space. So back then, you could decide that you wanted to try to start an esports org with your buddies, and that's exactly what I did with Enemy Esports. I was in engineering school at the time, followed my friends to college there because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was doing engineering in high school, and I was pretty good at it. And then I realized when I got to college that I was really bad at it. So I spent like every night after homework watching at the LCS and playing Smash with one of my buddies on the floor. And I convinced him one night to drop out of school with me and try to start an esports org. We were watching the LCS and we were sitting there we were like watching some of the owner interviews and like the management interviews and some of the content pieces, and we were like, "What? We could do this! Like, there's no reason why we couldn't do this." So we tried it. Started out signing the Call of Duty team, sent them to a tournament in North Carolina. They beat Envious. That was our notable win. And then when we beat Envious after watching them play for like years growing up, we were like, "Oh wow, maybe we actually can do this." So after that, we signed our first League of Legends team. They were doing an expansion tournament to decide like 2 teams that they would add to the LCS. We were just outside the top 2. We got 3rd, so we didn't make it. And so we were like, all right, we're really close to this. We got to try it again. Next split, we made it in the LCS, and that's when kind of everything took off because shortly after that, that's when all the investment came in. I was offered $1.2 million for my team, and and I was 21, 22 at the time, I think, and so at that point, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just like worked really hard to get to the LCS, but at the same time, $1 million is $1 million. You know, like if I were to sell, I would probably be much more wealthy than I am today. But
Sure.
I wouldn't have probably had the same career that I have today, right? Like I
Yeah.
got to have the experience of the trials and tribulations of being in the LCS, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so I turned it down. But the story how that goes is I went to my parents for advice on it, and they thought I was kidding. They didn't think I was serious,
Wow.
and they didn't believe me at all. So
Yeah.
I was attending Maryville at the same time as a student to get my business degree. I transferred from engineering to business, and so the only person I could rely on for like actual advice was my counselor. I went into my counselor's
Sure.
office. I was like, "Hey, so," and I was a commuter, so I wasn't like on campus all the time.
Sure.
So this is probably like the second time this guy's ever seen me in his life. I
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, out of the blue, I got to set my classes up for fall, but also I got this question," and then you know how like it goes, like you got to go through the motions of like, wait, they pay people for video games? Wait,
Video
what is
games. You
this?
got to
Blah blah blah.
explain.
Yeah, it was like an
And
hour and a half.
so,
It was like an hour and a half conversation.
so people can know, Dan.
Yeah.
What year is this?
This is 2014, 2015.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right.
Yeah, and so I'm giving you the whole story, all right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then we can chew it out, okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm like telling him all about like what I do, and he just like can't believe it. And his name's Dr. John Lewington. He's like a second father to me. Like he's a really big mentor to me now. Like next to Dr. Lombardi, the president of the school. Within 2 days, he had me in the president's office talking about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And they collectively told me not to sell, that it'd be a really good experience for me, and then they asked me what it would take to build something like this on campus. And at the time, the only other school that was doing it was RMU, Robert Morris. And so I originally turned them down because I had the big ego 22-year-old just made the LCS, thought I was going to be set for life. That's not how esports works. It's
sure.
Yeah, and then we got relegated. So I turned down the offer, and then we got dropped out of the league. So I went back into the president's office. I'll give you this. It's pretty convoluted history,
Sure.
but the background information on why I originally decided to go into collegiate. I had a player on that team in the LCS that dropped out of school to pursue the LCS, and his parents essentially told him to not come home after he made that decision. And so for 2 to 3 years, he was living on friends' couches trying to make the LCS, and finally made it with my team. And I didn't really understand what that meant to someone that kind of takes a risk like that. I come from a pretty privileged background. And when I saw him make the LCS with my team, I could like physically see like years of PTSD and stress like leave his body. And then I saw the exact opposite when we were relegated again. So I saw that there was a need for the industry. On the way to pro, there needs to be an alternative to like playing for no money and foregoing the years, like your 18 to 22-year-old years, foregoing going to college to pursue that. And so I went to the president's office and I said, if you give me 5 scholarships, I'll bring you an undefeated national championship. And he said, I've understand 1 out of every 3 words you've said about esports, but no one's ever come to my office and promised anything, let alone something like that. So I kind of just want to see if you're able to do it. And so he gave me the agency to do this, and we brought the championship back, and it's been smooth sailing ever since. Alongside that, I was headhunted by the investors of eUnited. I founded eUnited with them, and we went on to win Smite World Championship, Call of Duty World Championship, nearly missed out on LCS franchising. I signed world champion jungler Dandy to one of my teams. We had a good stint in Counter-Strike, had one of the best Overwatch teams pre-Overwatch League. So I have a pretty decorated career in pro and now collegiate, but my heart is really in collegiate and building out like the access to this, because the way the industry currently works, like it serves the players that are playing in Madison Square Garden and the players that are going to go watch those players play in Madison Square Garden, right? Like
sure.
Like if I had a son, I couldn't couldn't sign him up for a league to go play esports in person with kids his age. And so like, I think like when I started to talk to the president about that, I recognized that like there's a pretty big gap and someone needs to start working on it. So that's why I originally started Maryville, and it's been mind blowing to see how like we were the second university in the country to offer scholarships. Now there's over 500 and it's growing every year exponentially. But yeah, that's the longest form of my background I think I've ever given. So hope that wasn't too much.
No, it's not too much, man. And to be honest, man, I cherish your friendship because I started looking for interviews. Damn, you don't know him, bro. But I'm gonna go for a tearjerk, man. You're a real big voice on Twitter, so I ripped something from you, man. But I'm gonna go ahead and show my viewers what it is.
All right.
My goodness, don't you remember when you went first to school? You went to kindergarten. And in kindergarten, the idea was to push along so that you could get into first grade. And then push along so that you could get into second grade, third grade, and so on, going up and up. And then you went to high school, and this was a great transition in life. And now the pressure is being put on. You must get ahead. You must go up the grades and finally be good enough to get to college. And then when you get to college, you're still going step by step, up to the great moment in which you're ready to go out into the world. And then when you get out into this famous world comes the struggle for success in profession or business. And again, there seems to be a ladder before you, something for which you're reaching all the time. And then, suddenly, when you're about 40 or 45 years old in the middle of life, you wake up one day and say, huh? I've arrived. And by Jove, I feel pretty much the same as I've always felt. In fact, I'm not so sure that I don't feel a little bit cheated. Because you see, you were fooled. You were always living for somewhere where you aren't. And while, as I said, it is of tremendous use for us to be able to look ahead in this way and to plan, there is no use planning for a future, which when you get to it and it becomes a present, you won't be there. You'll be living in some other future which hasn't yet arrived. And so in this way, one is never able actually to inherit and enjoy the fruits of one's action. You can't live at all unless you can live fully now.
No tears? No.
Close. You got me close, actually. The crazy thing is I think I made that video in 2017. I have 4 or 5 more years of stuff that's happened since then.
Time for another one, bro.
It's crazy to think that that's just 4 years of time. Like,
yeah. And something.
But at the same time, like, looking back on everything, it feels like it's been like an instant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I woke up and now I'm 29. Like yesterday, I feel like I was 20 years old. I don't know.
Yeah, I just made my 38, man.
38 years young.
Yeah, I'm feeling what you're feeling, times 10. But yeah, man, it's time for another one, man, and try to live in the moment as much as you can. So I'm gonna go to the next question, Dan. And you kind of answered this a little bit, but why Maryville?
So I'm going to answer this in a way I don't think I've ever said publicly yet, but working in pro is really rewarding because for the sole reason that like you get to like stack your competence against other people in the sense that like it's purely about the game. It's like about winning and losing. You win or you lose. That's it. And so I had a lot of ambitions with like wanting to beat Team Liquid, wanting to win the LCS. I wanted to win the first world championship for North America. I wanted to win the Overwatch League. I wanted to win Call of Duty Worlds. I achieved some of those things, but not all of them. But the thing that really put me off about pro was I was in a situation where I spent 2 or 3 years at a time developing teams to achieve specific goals, like best team in Overwatch, best team in League of Legends, best team in whatever game, with the intention of wanting to get into franchising. And when I work with the same players for 2+ years and then barely miss franchising, and then I just have to say bye to those players, that sucks. And that happened to me probably 3 or 4 times in a row. And so that was really demotivating for me. And then on top of that, like at a certain point, like the financials and the professional side didn't make any sense to me. And so I just thought like being in college, in a college program where the university already has so many great things going for it, and esports is just a bullet point to the university, is a perfect place for me, because like the university is going to survive whether or not I'm there, and I can still work on and try to innovate on the things that I want to innovate on while it still makes financial sense, right? Like I don't have to answer to an investor about, I gave you $30 million and you've only brought back $1.5 million in 3 years. Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, I'm at a nonprofit university, so it's a completely different situation. Like the president wants to see me innovate, wants to see Maryville be a center of innovation, especially in esports, and I get the tools to do that. And it's like a playground. So, and then the other thing is, it's like, I realized that like when I won really big tournaments, like if I won a world championship, like, yeah, like it was really rewarding to see my team win that tournament and see the players achieve their goals. But like equally, if not more, like as a GM, when I'm putting those teams together, like I feel like I'm like the mastermind of that team, right? Like I feel like I'm the one that scouted that team. And so like it was if not more a win for me. And that's like, it sounds selfish, but like that was the dopamine rush that I got from that. When I'm working at the collegiate level, it's not about the money, it's not about the prize pools. The players aren't playing to get a raise next check. So and the players are all really hungry because they haven't been to that level at all yet.
Sure.
Like they haven't even gotten to the level where they're like bottom of the table pro, let alone winning like national championships. So those players are very hungry and they're all eager to learn. And so like it's a completely different type of person that you're working with. Mm-hmm. And I find getting those people to the next step infinitely more rewarding than any championship that I've ever won. And I don't think that like that was really ever really put into perspective for me until I saw my first batch of students walk on graduation. So like we've sent players to pro and this and that, and like that's rewarding in its own right. But like I've seen students walk and then their parents come up to me and they're like, I immigrated to this country to send my kid to college and he got to go to school for free because of your school, and you did this. My son, I haven't recognized my son since he started going to school at Maryville. Like he's a completely different person. That's like a whole completely different category of like I don't know what the word is. It's like it's a completely different category of like self-fulfillment than doing things for yourself, than doing things that feed your ego. And so like that sounds so corny and cliche, but that's honestly how I feel. And that's originally why I fell in love with it.
Yeah. I think that's the majority of the majority of people that work in education that really care about, the students. Share the same type of feeling, and to be honest, that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff in between those two laughs that y'all just heard. But
yeah, most of the people that I met in education in esports come from education, and now they're adopting esports, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're now getting involved in esports, where it's like the world of education was completely foreign to me. I was the exact opposite. Right. I came from esports, and now I'm like every year, like my eyes are getting open to more and more like the impacts of education for different people. And so like it's just been like a ride for me. And like also I would say like I've professionally developed at a rate in higher ed that I wouldn't have working in pro esports. I had to mature real quick to become a college admin, and that's been like, I would say probably the most rewarding thing for me is like I'm also able at the end of the year, like after the championship, whether we win or lose, sit back and be like, wow, I learned some really valuable lessons in
Or
2020.
accomplish something. Yeah.
I learned some really valuable things about myself this year. Like, it's a situation where we're not only helping the kids get to their goals, but like the kids are teaching me. Like we're learning off of each other, and it's not about the money. That's the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm laughing, man, because I'm reading one of the Twitch comments.
That's my buddy Bullet.
Yeah.
He's a goof.
but for sure, you know, man, I hate to do this to you, but I have to, because you just went into the whole spiel of like pretty much student center, student first, and it should be. And
Right.
I've saw growth in you, man, over the years, and you're becoming a great leader in the space. But we got to talk about the 4 national championships and the 23 major tournaments, man. We have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest again, like in a way that I haven't really ever said publicly, but I think early on when we were farming, it was just because of the lack of resources everywhere else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm given full rides and I have to pick of the litter, I should be winning, especially early on. You know what I mean? But like as of recent, there's been a lot of contenders popping up, and it's become a lot more challenging, which is what I originally wanted at the beginning. Honestly, is like if my team comes in and they mop up every year, like that's not fun for anybody. Gets to a point where it's not fun for any of the competitors. So it's been awesome to see really quality schools enter the fold, really quality programs like Harrisburg, ISU, Northwood, St. Thomas, these high-end varsity schools, and then even like the club programs like Western Ontario, Michigan State, Arizona State, these unsupported students that are also putting a lot of these varsity programs on their back. It's been really nice to see the growth in the space. So it's not Maryville just dominating every year. In fact, we lost Sealall this past year. We're still chasing the year where we sweep and win all of our titles. But yeah, I mean, I think our record sits somewhere around like 700 something wins. I have to look at the spreadsheet. I don't have it in front of me, and like 40 losses. So we have a pretty good history on our hands.
Right.
I think total we passed our 1,000 win milestone, including collegiate and non-collegiate semi-pro play,
Cool.
like a year ago. But I mean, I used to be able to claim all that, but now I have a really talented staff alongside me. I have 3 other fully dedicated guys that are full time that are able to focus on the championships, and I can't really claim those anymore because I'm more focused on the high school stuff and the access.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a really important thing for me, is like getting to the point where I'm able to convince my administration that I need help, and I get that help, and now they're able to focus on the players and the wins, and I get to focus on all the other stuff that, like, again, innovating the space, you know.
Yeah. Oh, what a dream.
So, I'm telling you, man, we've talked on the phone a few times.
Yeah.
You keep it up, you're gonna eat soon.
Oh yeah, for
your
sure.
meal's coming soon, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
So, and I'm glad we're on that track. So we have talked offline quite a bit, and so for me being at a historical black college, and this is strictly off script, but I think you're gonna be able to answer this. What do you see in the future that needs to be done as far as, you know, diversity and inclusion and accessibility to some of the titles that are not, I guess, culturally played in my environment, to kind of catch those kids up? Because, you know, I'm looking at the collegiate, you know, ecosystem, and I'm seeing what games are being the ones that's being pushed to the front, and culturally they're not a fit for HBCU. What would you tell some of the HBCUs to do as far as programming wise?
So this is like, as someone that comes from like a middle class white household,
sure,
with privilege, this is something that I've had to like really peel back the onion and learn about myself. So learning from people like you endemically, and then going out and doing my own research locally, because I'm a firm believer that like I have to be able to help my own backyard before I can help the rest of the country on things. So
Absolutely.
I've been bringing out a bunch of charities like Rides and School Supplies, Jackie Joyner Kersey Foundation, trying to get them a computer lab, in partnership with the Blues, Boys and Girls Club here in St. Louis, and through them, like I've been helping them get access to equipment and all this stuff, but also in return, I've been asking for data. And what I've been learning from these groups is that, and not only them, but even like private massive companies in town, is that there's a very clear access issue to not only esports, but STEM generally.
Period. Yeah.
And so like, I'll start with like a call to arms for private businesses first, and then I'll get into your question about HBCUs specifically.
Sure.
But when I talk to Boeing, when I talk to Purina, when I talk to some of these companies, especially the ones that are headquartered in St. Louis, they all tell me that St. Louis has an issue of retaining young STEM professionals, and they have a hard time hiring diverse STEM hires because they just aren't out there in plentiful amounts. And so to me, it just sounds like a no-brainer. Like if the stat is out there, and it is, that 65 to 70% of esports players in college are STEM students, it's a no-brainer for these companies to step in and support HBCUs. That's how you solve your problem. You need to step in and provide the resources to the exact group that you are claiming that you're missing, you know?
Sure.
And so that's been kind of the biggest thing. I'm looking forward to connecting to Harris Stowe here in St. Louis pretty soon to try to like learn a little bit more about the local HBCU that I'm aware of. But when it comes to what people are interested in culturally, I don't think it's a matter of like certain games aren't culture fits. I think it's more a matter of like your mom buys an Xbox or a PS4 because
of the price point. Yeah.
Price point, it's a lot easier to figure out than getting a gaming PC with all the peripherals and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, if you look at the industry at large, the games that pay are the games on computer, right?
Sure.
Like, obviously, you can play Apex or Fortnite on controller and do decently well, or be a part of the 2K League, but you're not going to have access to the high-paying titles like League of Legends, Overwatch, etc. And so, I don't think it's a matter of like there being like a cultural non-fit for these games. I think it's a matter of like we just have to have these HBCUs given the resources to have discovery days for their community. So the community comes in and they try these games. They're introduced to these games. I think that also like another part of it is going to be time. Like because of the crypto market, access to graphics cards has been hell for the last for the last several years. And so I think innovations like the Steam Deck, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Steam Deck, but you can actually plug that thing into a dock and use it as a desktop PC. And it's like $500 and it can run all esports titles.
Yep.
You can donate those in mass. They are portable. You can wheel them out and set them up and tear them down every day for after school programs. I think as technology improves and innovations like the Steam Deck keep happening, I think the access issue will naturally solve itself. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't earmark this as we need to try to solve this right now issue, because there are things that can be done, you know. My personal goal is for my local area. I want every student in St. Louis to have access to the highest level of esports, playing on a stage in front of their parents and their friends, something they can be proud of to contextualize what they're passionate about to their parents. And like that starts again with access. And so it has to be solved, and universities that are fortunate like Maryville, you need to recognize that it is your obligation to be one of the problem solvers for this in your local area, right? Like if you have the space, if you have the PCs, if you have the resources, invite some of these some of these districts out, invite some of the students out to practice in your facility, bring them in for coaching, bring them in for discovery days. Like it's going to take a village to solve this problem.
Sure.
If it were easy, it would have already been solved, right? But it's not, and we all just have to kind of work together. And I know that we've talked on the phone about your situation specifically in your area, and not all areas in the country have the diverse business background that St. Louis like deceptively does,
Sure.
or like a New York or Chicago, or like let's even go
Yeah.
greater than that. And so
Major cities, yeah.
you got to take each city as its own puzzle, right? Like
You do.
you can't there's no broad brush answer that can be applied to every city across America. And so people that got it have to help other people figure it out, and we go from there, you know.
For sure. So we have a few minutes left. I'm gonna put something up here, man. I'm gonna let this sit up here. If you choose to talk about it, you can talk about it. If not, you know,
All right.
it's cool.
All right, yeah. So, we are planning on building a 3,000 seat esports arena with a massive space attached to it that will serve varsity on the top and community and club on the bottom. And the purpose of this is to be our local hub. We're not building this with the intention of selling out Maryville games every day. We are building this with the intention of hosting compelling and meaningful competition to high schools and local schools in the area. We want to do developer events so we can bring Valorant tournaments out for Riot or Overwatch tournaments out for Blizzard, and be able to expose our local community to events like that. But the biggest goal with that arena is I want to fill that for a state championship in high school in the next 5 to 8 years. And so that's what we're doing there. We're also building a 17,000 square foot building that'll be up much sooner than that one. That one's going to be done in like 2025. The 17,000 square foot one will be up in January. The big one is going to cost a lot of money, and so the one that's opening in January is going to serve as like a testing zone for our event ideas. And what I mean by that is it's going to give us space to add Valorant, Rocket League, Smash, but it's also going to give us space to test and build like our Smash weeklies, our Smash monthlies, potential major, Gateway Legends, events that we can then kind of take as a finished product that we've proven will work at a smaller scale and put into the larger building. So there's a lot on the horizon, but that's going to kind of be the mecca for our local area. Summer camps, youth leagues, all that stuff. That's the whole purpose for that. So a lot of people, when they see that, they ask me, they're like, you think you're going to sell that out for Maryville? I'm like, no, not for 15, 20 years. I don't, no chance. But what I can do is, based on what I've seen with the high school events here, I think it's very realistic that we can sell that out for high school and youth. And once you get the parents and the friends out there, that's a pretty powerful thing in local community, right? And St. Louis, I know where you're at, but St. Louis is also a city that needs wins.
Yeah.
And
we're on the river too.
Yeah. We're a city where we got two forks where we could go. We could go towards Detroit, or we could go towards Chicago in our future growth. And so, as a city that desperately needs wins, we're recognizing that esports can be that win. Not only because of the situation that we've built with Maryville, but because of our geographic location. I've explained to a lot of people in town that like this is one of the rare times that St. Louis as a city has an advantage over a New York or an LA. And the reason for that is because of ping, right?
Yeah.
Most of the servers are centrally located. So if we want to build a high octane practice area where we are consistently building high level players and hosting high level competition, high school to collegiate, et cetera, we have a perfect environment to do so. And all we have to do is invest in it and be the first to market. And so that's what we're looking to do here.
That's cool, man. So I'm not gonna keep you all day. I could if I think I wanted to, but I always give my guests time to plug away. So and so many things. I'm gonna have to bring you back on, man. But
I mean, we should do one where we just get on and we just like openly talk about
we
whatever.
could definitely do that, man. Because it's a topic that I'm gonna say that I look at you all the time. You understand content is king, and you know how to put your players out there in the right way. But I'm gonna say that for the next time. We'll
yeah, for sure.
But go ahead and plug away, man. Let people know how they can get in contact with you or the program, social media, etc.
So you see my Twitter right there. You can just DM me on there. Yeah, I mean, pretty easy to get a hold of me. I'm not going to promise you that I'll respond right away, but I'll get around to it in a month or two, maybe. worst case scenario, my DMs are like my email. So some people are better on top of that than others. Some days I see like 20 of them, and I'm like, I'll wait till next week. But yeah, just reach out to me, and please, if I don't respond, just bump. I'll get around to you eventually. For shout outs, though, I mean, I'll shout out Dr. Lombardi, my president. Obviously, I wouldn't have the life I have without him. We wouldn't be building what we have without him. He's someone that I can rely on and believes in me, and that's invaluable. I left a pretty good pro career, and I've turned down a lot of offers at other schools and professional teams simply because of the relationship that I have with Dr. Lombardi. He literally feels like a second father to me, and I'm grateful to him for everything. And then my second shout out is going to be to you, Chris.
Awesome, bro.
A lot of people don't really see what Chris is doing, but or really understand the struggles of an HBCU. I didn't really understand it until recently, and I'm learning more and more. But I think it's beyond admirable what you're doing, and it's a really, really hard problem to try to set out and try to solve. And it takes a special kind of person to want to attempt that, let alone succeed in the way that you have thus far. And I'm excited to see where you're going, and I'm proud of what you've done so far. And I know you're going to get your plate one day here soon, and I know that all your students are going to eat with you, you know?
For sure, man. It's been a pleasure, man. As always, thank you for coming on, and we're going to wrap up the show. That was Dan Clerke, Maryville Esports. Go look it up. If you're trying to get into esports, if you're trying to develop a program, it's a great program to look at and, steal some things. It's okay. It's all right to steal. But I'm your host, Christopher Turner. Thanks for watching. We're going to wrap up the show.